My name's Paul Truong. I work at Google. I'm a creative technologist. I don't build HTML5 games during my day-to-day. I wish I did, but that's not my job. I do a little bit of work with some developer relations teams who's here as well. And I work with the media solutions team, talking about YouTube and advertising solutions and a lot of corporate stuff like that. But it's really a nice opportunity to talk to people about HTML5 games. So, I think somebody asked a question about processing. I'm going to talk about two games today. The first game is actually built on processing JS. So I think Christian had a question about how it performs and all this kind of stuff. And putting that aside, like the reason why I put processing JS up front is it's actually a really friendly way to get into Canvas and get into HTML5 game development. They have these functions called setup and draw, and they have a lot of these sort of high-level means of drawing graphics on the screen, and it's actually really, really useful for games. So you can set up a game using the setup function, you can create a game loop using the draw function, and you can pick up on key presses really, really easily. The game that I'm going to show you, this talk is really more about like inspiration for how you can build these games and also how users can interact with these games. So the first step is really, really straightforward. It's just a key press based game. It's using your keyboard. Hopefully it will load. Hopefully it will load. I might have to run this locally. Okay, these things happen. Yeah.
It's a lot of bold, it's quite hardcore and then you get left with as well.
It's interesting seeing other people's
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. No way.
Really technical differences. Bear with me, seriously bear with me.
No, you can hear your air.
Yay! Okay, so this is really a love letter to Gmail. At the time that I created this game, it was really to remind ourselves of why Gmail was kind of cool. I was learning processing at the time, and I basically stuck a Gmail icon as a test for loading images into Canvas. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Canvas, like drawing, using the drawing API, but you can just pull in images. And I kind of come from a Flash designer developer background, so I was used to designers giving me a lot of graphical assets, and there were sequence pings. So they'll give me a sequence ping, and I'll stick in a movie clip, and then I'll move the movie clip around on stage. And it's a very common way of building like a game. So I wanted to see that with Canvas, you can also do exactly the same thing. Like you can pull in a sequence of images, and then with just keyboard presses, just take out these guys. And the story of this game is really that Gmail was launched from a 20% project. When we first launched it, we had no limit on inbox, and we launched it on April Fools, and everybody thought we were joking. And when in actual fact, we did actually have a 0 limit on the inbox. So the boss to this game is a, when I get to it, It's really hard to play whilst talking in the mic, by the way, with loads of people watching you and a couple of pints down your throat. So it's kind of like, I've got harder demos to show later as well, so I'm going to try and avoid these guys and survive. Let's see if I can survive. Like, you've only got one life there. This is processing JS, so it's running pretty smoothly. I would say it's... It was never going to be a good night for me performing games tonight, but you get the idea. So loading in images and sequencing them, you can be very rich and graphical with your Canvas games. And everything here is just an image, so like I just put in images for pretty much everything. I hope the other thing works. I wanted to talk about some other input systems. So we just put device orientation in the latest build of Chrome, and with a little bit of code, like you can see, it's not a huge amount of code, but with a tiny bit of code, you can capture the device orientation in things like your MacBook Pro, which has a accelerometer in it. I think the reason why they put it in there is because of it's part of a motion sensor system, a sudden motion sensor system. So if you drop your MacBook, it disengages the hard drive and it kind of protects your data. It's one of those cool things that Apple kind of put into their devices, and it's just a really nice touch. But now that the browser can take advantage of it, it's actually kind of fun for creating games as well. So you can kind of consider using it to create another input for your games. And actually, the device orientation now comes in iPhone 4.2.1 release. So I kind of tweaked this game afterwards with a little small amount of code, and I was able to get this to work on an iPhone as well. So it's kind of interesting, like somebody was talking about Flash and getting games, writing games with HTML5 and all this kind of stuff. The open web is moving very, very fast, and one of the key things I see about the difference between Flash and open web is open web is being pushed forwards a lot faster, and you're not relying on a particular vendor. You are relying on browser vendors, but the browser vendors are kind of working together, and there's quite a few of them moving forward. So it's kind of a happy family there. Whereas with Adobe, you kind of have to kind of wait for these things to kind of come into play. So the game I'm going to show you, you can play with mouse. So obviously there's keyboard controls and there's mouse controls, and I'll use the mouse controls to explain the game. It's basically it's a game of survival. It's called Fight or Flight, and the idea is you just basically avoid the oncoming dots. It's pretty easy to get low scores because you're just basically avoiding these guys, but should you wish, and if you think you can eat one of these guys that you think you can take on like that, and you get like triple points for it. So I'll just show you another example of what happens. Just do like that. But you can also play this game with orientation. So I'm just gonna put this mic down because it's causing me problems. It's really hard to win in this mode, but there we go. Yeah, it's just like... So yeah, that's an example of orientation based. It's in the latest build of Chrome, and it will come to all the other browsers as well. So it's going to be really fun to see all these games use people doing this on their work desktops, and really putting that motion sensor to work and testing Apple's theory. And then finally, there isn't a demo of this, but these speech inputs for HTML5 are, I don't know if you know, you can put speech input to, you can take a text field, a text input, and add speech to it, so you can actually talk into these input fields. I'll give an example. Destroy. Hello. basically like it'll take your speech and it'll interpret it like locally, and then you can do string tests and you can like build games with voice commands. So it's not going to be great for like action games where you have to dodge stuff which is coming towards you, but it'll be pretty good for like, I don't know, like chess games where you have to go K9, whatever it is. Or you could like do voice activated stuff whilst you're playing like fast reactive stuff, so you can like potentially trigger this to accept speech, and then you can have like voice commands on top of your games, which would be kind of cool. But that's basically it. So I just really wanted to give you some inspiration for like how you could build these interesting, just build the games that you love building, but like adding some interesting bits on top to kind of make it even more interesting. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.